Hello, everyone, and welcome to iCritic Live. This is the podcast where we talk about entertainment, pop culture, and life in between. I'm your host, Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net, and thank you for spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. And I guess I'm going to start this episode by providing a bit of a quote-unquote trigger warning, because honestly, I don't really believe in trigger warnings, especially for things like this. The biggest trigger warning that you could probably find in this particular episode is that you might disagree with my opinion. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. I, unlike most people, welcome disagreements because we find out more about each other. We are exposed to ideas that we might not have thought about, some points of views that maybe we hadn't considered, and yada yada. But you're going to probably disagree with me because, well, today we're talking about J.K. Rowling and her ownership of Harry Potter, and this is always going to be a hot potato issue, and whatever issues you have, by the way, you can comment below if you're listening to this podcast on a service that allows comments like YouTube or Spotify, things like that, but I find that people have a very hard time having a civil conversation about this, and really they almost start getting to delusional states of what they are thinking about. And I have to be honest, I have to kind of tear down a rumor, a belief that's going on. This thing went on X, this story that we're talking about, went on X and kind of went viral. This tweet, if you will, is had 16 million views, 1.4 thousand quote tweets. I was one of them, and also people like Tony Goldmark and Jenny Nicholson also quote tweeted it, kind of saying, "Oh, this looks like it might actually have some merit to it." And I have nothing against Jenny, and me and Tony have put aside our differences, but truly, we're cool. But I think people sharing this and saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if this happened?" are kind of in a state of denial, and so we have to talk about it. So, Wizarding News, which for those who are not aware, Wizarding News was a news website that covered things Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling herself endorsed the website, and they won some awards. As far as I can tell, the website no longer exists the way it used to. I believe it is just an X handle now. And the only thing Wizarding News trademark does is basically attack and harass J.K. Rowling. The X handler is very much against J.K. Rowling and what he or she, I don't know who runs it to be honest, perceives as Rowling's transphobia, and all they do is dunk on her all day. Now, in my opinion, that is not a news service anymore, because when you write news or you cover news, you have to be objectional. Even if you personally absolutely despise the other person, you have to give them their day in court. You can push back a little bit, but you do have to let them say their piece, and you can't make it your mission in life to tear someone down. That makes you an activist, not a reporter. All the best reporters, the Edward R. Murrows, the Barbara Walters, the Walter Cronkites, they did have personal points of view. Of course they did, but they would still talk to people that they would not normally agree with, because that's what they did as journalists. Wizarding News does not even pretend to be neutral or anything like that. And has also, by the way, shared things that are verifiably not true, to the point where, they've had to retract statements they have made about J.K. Rowling and the family. And some people say, "Oh, well, someone's lawyer got involved." It's like, yeah, you say something that's not true, and you have a powerful person who has a lawyer, and they said, "Hey, we can prove this is not true. Like, do you want us to go to court over this? Like, retract your statement. It isn't factual." And they have every right to do that. And that's not bullying, in my opinion, especially if the information was not true. So That's Wizarding News. Now they retweeted an article from Inside the Magic, which, by the way, is also not known for being necessarily factual in their reporting either. So you're going on two levels of potentially disinformation right off the get-go. And what Wizarding News wrote was J.K. Rowling could lose Harry Potter. Industry insider Jeffrey Snyder, who is not a credible source, I want to add, says that Warner Bros. Discovery has already attempted to buy Rowling out of their co-owned franchise. Now, the article headline is Report. J.K. Rowling could lose Harry Potter, insider claims. Now, here's the problem with this going viral. The headline itself is not true. It is factually untrue. It will never be true. J.K. Rowling has the rights to Harry Potter lock, stock, and barrel. And, by the way, she created it. She deserves to have those rights, whether you think she's a terrible person or not. And I'm not going to argue with you if you say she is. But she owns those rights. She owns Harry Potter. She is not going to lose it. There is no possible way she can lose this. And the thing is, the people who are retweeting it and everything, they're commenting on some of the content of the article itself, which we're also going to discuss, but they're not dismissing the headline. The headline wants to suggest, and many people are rightfully reading into the headline, that, oh my gosh, J.K. Rowling could lose Harry Potter because she has burned so many bridges? I mean, could it happen? Is it possible? And the answer is no. It's not going to happen. She cannot lose Harry Potter. She can't lose it. Never. Ever. And by the way, if she died in an unforeseen accident or something along those lines, guess what? Her family gets the rights. Like, there's no possible way Rowling's family loses the rights. There's no way she loses the right. I have to stress this because this is the headline that is going around X, is that she is going to lose these rights. She is not going to lose the rights. She never will. And you should not expect that to happen. No matter how good Warner Brothers lawyers are, no matter how good Scholastic's lawyers are, it doesn't matter how good anyone's lawyers is, she will never lose Harry Potter. And that is a extremely deceptive headlines. Not only because it factually cannot happen, but because the article itself doesn't even explain how she could lose the Harry Potter franchise. In fact, everything that it describes is the exact opposite of losing the headline. So I'm going to read you at least half of the actual article that this tweet is applied to. The reason I'm not reading the first half is because it just recaps the drama. And if you're listening to this, you've probably heard the drama multiple times. You don't need me to regurgitate it for you. So let's look at the article here. And I'm going to start with this part. Not only has this caused tension, which, her statements, obviously, between Rowling and the actors who have served as the faces of Harry Potter for over 20 years, but it's also led to the controversy around newly announced Harry Potter projects. Last year's Hogwarts Legacy and the upcoming TV reboot of the franchise were both widely criticized as endorsements or dismissals of the damage Rowling has caused onto the transgender community. Now, I'm going to point out a couple things in that sentence. One, if you're being a real journalist, you say alleged damage Rowling has caused to the transgender community, because unless you can actually verify that something Rowling did directly correlated with damage to the transgender community, this could be seen as libel. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just explaining this. I went to school and minored in journalism, so I know this stuff. And also, the fact that there was controversy around the projects, it didn't mean that the projects were poor sellers. Now, they kind of admit to that with the next paragraph. For Warner Brothers Discovery, the studio behind these projects, this poses a problem. While Hogwarts Legacy was successful and the reboot, despite calls for a boycott, will inevitably follow in its path, the chances of the franchise's former actors ever starring in a follow-up to Harry Potter seem to grow slimmer by the day. Now, honestly, what follow-up would that be? I guess you could say it would be Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, a project I don't even think Harry Potter fans want to turn into a movie. And there's no reason to turn it into a movie now, because the Broadway play is still doing great. Granted, they edited a lot out, so that it's no longer 2 shows, it's 1 show. That makes a lot more sense. But who cares if the actors are unlikely to show up in a follow-up, because there's not much to follow up on. There's The Curse of the Child stage production that you can adapt into a movie, and they've got plenty of years to do that. Although I think their bigger problem at that point, if they ever got around to it, was like, well, Alan Rickman's not around, Michael Gambon's not around, there's a pretty good chance Maggie Smith won't be around. It's the other actors dying. It's not, Daniel, Emma, and Rupert. So, anyway, now, industry insider Jeffrey Schneider, is suggesting that this could lead to Warner Bros. Discovery buying Rowling out of the franchise. Now, this is where it got annoying. The headline clearly stated she could lose the rights to Harry Potter, but being bought out of the franchise is a far, far cry from losing. If anything, that's J.K. Rowling cashing in her chips. She's cashing in her chips, and she is making millions, if not billions of dollars to walk away from the franchise. In the latest episode of his newsletter, the Snyder, which shares leaks and rumors from the entertainment industry, Schneider commented on the recent announcement of the new Harry Potter audiobook series and suggested that this is Rowling trying to make the most of the series while she can. And what other Harry Potter projects is not the companies making the most out of it as they can? Obviously, the people who are publishing the audiobook, guess what? They're into it. They're going to profit off of this. I mean, it's like, yeah, new audiobooks that are a little bit nicer than the old ones. Whoop-de-doo. So what? Reading between the lines of this announcement, this feels like Rowling squeezing as much juice as she can from the Harry Potter orange before WBD inevitably buys her out to get rid of her, as the original stars won't return while she's still around, Schneider wrote. Again, this isn't her. She can choose not to sell. Like, she can choose not to sell. There is no way she loses this. And Warner Brothers, you're talking about Warner Brothers, the company whose stock is at $7.47 as of this recording, of which I am heavily invested in. I have a lot of Warner Brothers shares, just, to let you know. They're writing movies off for tax purposes, and you expect them to dig into their pocket and shell out billions of dollars for Harry Potter? You know how much Star Wars cost Disney? It cost them, if I remember, $77 billion. It was not a small chunk of change. And guess what? Harry Potter would cost more, because Harry Potter makes more money than Star Wars. There's more stuff to go along with the Harry Potter brand. There's theme park attractions. There's books. There's new movies we made. There's that TV series. There's the game. But here's the other thing. Like, her being involved in these projects have not diminished their profitability. Why would they need to buy her out when her presence isn't even affecting the sales of the franchise? And this is where some fans really, really hate to hear, or especially like if you are in the LGBTQ community, or you're an activist, or maybe even someone who was just personally hurt by things she said. I'm sorry, by the way, even though it's not my place to say that. They want her away from it. They feel like they could enjoy Harry Potter again if she wasn't part of it. But look at it from a business perspective. If you're making tons of money off Harry Potter, guess what? J.K. Rowling's involvement, or the fact that she cashes royalty checks from this, it's not affecting sales. Why would Warner Brothers Discovery buy her out? You think they care about the LGBTQ community? They don't. They don't. They only care as so far as they can sell you something. If they felt like J.K. Rowling's involvement of this would cost them 50% of the sales, or heck, even 30% of potential sales of whatever it is they're making, maybe they would consider buying her out. But you're talking about a situation that has affected a relatively small amount of people who buy and are involved in her stuff. Most people are not aware this is going on. They just know that she said something, but they don't know exactly what she said. And it's just not affecting the sales of Harry Potter. When you read stories about like her company itself is doing poorly, it's because it relates to her non-Harry Potter works, like the Cormoran Strike novels, which I really like. Cormoran Strike is a great series, but it's not Harry Potter level success. It's a very minor success thing. She also wrote The Christmas Pig, which is one of the best children's books I've read in a very long time. I actually read it in one sitting. It's wonderful to find books like that. Well, that recently was announced that they were going to adapt that into a movie. I think Warner Brothers is doing it, so they're still in business with her, even if they can't buy her out. And so that's going to help her business. But like she has a separate business that's not doing as well as Harry Potter, but Harry Potter's still very lucrative. Now let's continue with the article for a little bit. Like, the upcoming audiobook series will cast hundreds of actors to voice the characters in all 7 Harry Potter novels produced by Rowling's Pottermore Publishing. These will premiere on Amazon's Audible services in late 2025. So, it's going to be kind of like an audio drama. I would totally listen to that. Look, chips on the table. I'm a huge Potterhead. These books mean this so much to me. And I always separate the art from the artist. I never let the person's personal beliefs, affect my enjoyment of the series. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them or anything like that. So I'm looking forward to listening to this. And by the way, Pottermore Publishing, that's another thing she's doing. So obviously that's why she's redoing the audiobooks, to not only update them and make them more immersive, but to pad the Pottermore coffin. So the article continues. For now, the logistics of how Warner Brothers Discovery would buy out Rowling are unclear. If they're even interested. We don't even know if they're interested. The studio currently owns the film rights for the franchise, while Rowling retains the book rights. Yeah, Warner Brothers doesn't have a publishing division as far as I'm aware, so, and if they do, I don't know if they would necessarily get Harry Potter. I don't know how that would work. Last year, rumors emerged that Warner Brothers originally wanted to bring the original Harry Potter cast back for a 9th movie, potentially a film adaptation of the stage show Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, but faced a roadblock due to their sentiments towards Rowling. Now, that was partially true. I think Emma Watson was the most vocal about that. Rupert Grint seemed the most receptive to it. And Daniel Radcliffe said no, but to check back with him in a few years. So, I think of the 3, Emma Watson would probably be the one that wouldn't come back, because Activision is her brand now. I don't even think she wants to be much of an actress anymore. But, and she wants to be more of an activist. And if she wants to be more of an activist, then this might be more important to her than coming back to Harry Potter. But again, some of the other problems was that we were already losing the adults, and that's just a problem. So, this very, really poorly written article. It then allegedly tried to buy Rowling out of the franchise, but Rowling requested an impossible amount. As a result, it decided to settle for a 7-part TV series focusing on each book. Well, okay, first of all, quote your sources. Quote your sources inside the magic. You gotta quote your sources here. Yeah. I mean, sure, I'm sure she wants an impossible amount because she sees how much money her series is making. She's not gonna settle for less. And I mean, Warner Brothers, like, the fact that they decided to I don't know, like, as a result, they decided to settle for a 7-part TV series focusing on each book. Like, what else is there? I mean, they couldn't create new stuff without her. So, I mean, the Fantastic Beasts movies didn't go anywhere, which I'm kind of mixed on that one. I like the first one, and the third one was really good, but the second one was so bad that I was actually rethinking my love for this franchise. But anyway. Rowling has infamously strict creative control over Harry Potter projects. The author served as a consultant for every aspect of the wizarding world of Harry Potter at Universal Studios theme parks, reportedly having every food served in the land flown to Scotland for her approval. According to her contract with Universal, Rowling also has full veto power. Any objection whatsoever by the author with regard to any submissions related to or concerning food and beverage and or use of licensed property in connection with third-party names, logos, or other third-party elements is sufficient grounds for disapproval by the licensor. So that's contract talk. So that's the end of the article, and yeah, I hate it when things like this go viral. And look, I get it. If you really do not like J.K. Rowling and it has hurt your love for Harry Potter, you would want her as far away so that you could enjoy it guilt-free, I guess. But the thing is, she's never going to lose Harry Potter control. There's no possible way that can happen. And if she does decide to cash in her chips, that's exactly what she's doing. She is cashing in her chips. She's getting a huge paycheck for her creation. Now, you can either accept that, move on from Harry Potter. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with moving on from things. I watched Barney when I was a kid. I don't still need to be watching Barney. Kind of curious about that Daniel Kaluuya movie that he's making, but otherwise, not really into Barbie anymore. I don't watch Lamb Chop sing along anymore for that reason either. So it's okay to move on if you want. If this is not your thing anymore, move on. Find something else. It's perfectly fine. But if you are a fan who does not want to do Harry Potter while she is in control, who is hoping and praying that she will, quote unquote, lose control of the characters, that is a losing game. And by the way, if you're hoping that she's going to sell her property, I wouldn't count on that either. It's not that she fears being irrelevant. She does not. If you've listened to the witch trials of J.K. Rowling, you know she does not care about her legacy. She cares about what's important to her, her convictions, her values, whether you agree with those values or not. That's besides the point. But she has principles, and she will stand by them. So she's not worried about that at all. She just loves her creation, and she knows what that creation is worth. And so if someone wants to buy it, she's putting forward an offer, and if the companies can't afford it, well, then they'll just work with her rather than not do it at all. So my advice in these situations has always been, look, if you truly can't separate the art from the artist, cut your ties, move on. Or you can do the art versus the artist. You can separate them, especially since I don't think any of her views on trans people actually shows up in the books. And I read these books like once every 2 years. I don't see anything that's anti-trans or anti-LGBTQ. And honestly, to think she was actually a big champion of LGBT rights. Like, she outed Dumbledore as gay, although she did it after the series was over, and it's not really in the text unless you're looking very, very closely. But, so you can just read them and just, hey, the books are what they are, and I don't agree with the author. Considering all the movie reviews, if you go down this path, you will find that you will eventually not be able to watch, read, or listen to anything, because some publisher is going to give money to an organization you don't agree with, or a politician. Some actor is going to do something in their personal lives. You can never completely agree with anyone 100% of the time, and being this puritanical purity test where everyone has to meet this strict code of you agree with everything I believe or I'm not supporting you, you're not going to have fun. You're just not going to have fun. You're not going to be having any entertainment. But if you say, hey, you know what? It's disappointing that the person is like that or was like that, because, like in my case, Bing Crosby was a terrible father, if you didn't know. I think he beat his kids and stuff like that, but the guy could sing. And I'm not going to stop listening to that wonderful music just because I know he was not a model citizen. So, Yep, that's kind of my stance on it. I would like to know what you think about this. If you're listening to this podcast where there's comments, feel free to share them. I'm sure you got feelings about them because every time I talk about J.K. Rowling, these things come up. And yeah, folks, if you're listening to this, like, and your name popped up, don't hate you. Just be careful what headlines you share, especially if you could take 5 seconds to fact check and see that this headline is not true. And don't get your hopes up too high. I mean, Harry Potter ended a long time ago for me. I most recently saw the stage play, loved it, but if there's never any more of it, I'm fine. You know, there's a play, there's 8 movies, there's several video games, one of them's good, and obviously there's the books. I have enough. I personally have enough. And if this is your first time listening, and you want to continue to listen to more down the line, let's make it official. Subscribe to this podcast on either YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever. And hey, if you want to read my writings, go to www.icritic.net. You have to put the www in there, and that's where you can read my reviews, some commentary, and check out shorts of the day. So anyway, folks, I will catch you next time and see you at the movies. Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Just a few more things. First of all, the names that you see on the screen, these are our Patreon and YouTube member supporters. And I thank each and every one of them. Their support helps me make exclusive videos for Patreon and YouTube members, as well as keep the channel running. And of course, is just of huge kindness to me. Also, don't forget to check out the iCritic-led podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you listen to. It is there. We definitely want to see you there. And hey, there's also other videos that you can check out. So, you know, check out these other channels, these other videos, especially that one. I think that's a really good one.